All right, man, today we're going to talk about reserve currencies, right, for your portfolio. A reserve currency is just like basically, the way you measure the value of your portfolio, right? And most oftentimes it's cash, but some people might, consider it to be acreage or units or, gold, Bitcoin is what I choose, right? But most of the time people measure it in cash, right? You measure it in how much cash can you accumulate. And cash is for a short-term currency to use, right? It's actually a good thing because it's not volatile at all, right? And we have stable coins in crypto because you might want to get out of a coin that's dumping, and you want to be in a coin that's remaining stable. And stable coins are pegged to the U.S. dollar. So one stable coin will always equal one U.S. dollar, and by doing so, by selling into that coin, you basically save your money from dumping out. Especially if Bitcoin is coming down, the whole market's coming down. By jumping into a stable coin, you now, if you had 20 grand, or if you had $1,000 and Bitcoin dropped by 50%, if you kept it in Bitcoin, it'd be $500. But if you went into a stable coin, you'd maintain your $1,000. And now when Bitcoin drops by 50%, you're able to pick up twice as much Bitcoin. And so, that leads me into the next piece, which is, that I want to pick up as much Bitcoin as possible, right? And so let's take 2017 for example. In 2017, the height of Bitcoin's price was like 20 grand. It was like 19,600. So at 20 grand, if you bought a whole Bitcoin then, and then you held it through the dump, your 20,000 became worth $3,000, which sucked, right? In terms of value, right? But you still had one Bitcoin regardless, right? So even if you held it until now your one Bitcoin, that $20,000 investment would be worth 50 grand, which is cool. But if you had sold as it was coming down, and so at 20,000 you sold and you waited until the price got to the bottom, and let's say you timed the bottom perfectly and you hit $3,000, now you had 6.6 Bitcoin, roughly around, so I'm just doing the math in my head, 6.6 Bitcoin, for that same 20,000, right? And when you measure your value, your reserve currency in Bitcoin, you would be like, oh man, I just 6x'd my wealth, even though in dollars you didn't, right? But you got 6 times as much Bitcoin. Now, the reason why, I know for some people, all right, that doesn't make any sense because you still only got 20 grand, you know what I mean? But the thing is if you have 6.6 Bitcoin versus the one Bitcoin that you have, when Bitcoin's price does go up, right? Because Bitcoin goes up and it goes down, but it goes up. And when it does go up, let's say to where it's at today, 50 grand, you turned your $20,000 into $300,000. You know what I mean? Oh, it's pretty good. That's a pretty good flip, right? And that's why I measure the portfolio and how much Bitcoin we have, because that presents an opportunity for us to accumulate a lot more wealth in terms of US dollars. Like the value of Bitcoin goes up a lot, right? And so when you measure it like that, you do yourself a big favor. Now, there's a school of thought out there called Bitcoin maximalism, where it's people who believe that Bitcoin is the only coin you should ever buy. You should never buy any other coin, right? And I have a lot of agreements with that, and that's why Bitcoin is it's my reserve currency for my portfolio. I'd rather accumulate Bitcoin than anything else, right? But I don't necessarily agree that there's no value in other coins at all. I don't agree with that. And I also believe that even if we could argue, the value, potential value, unrealized value, the inertia of other coins, right, is all perceived, right? It's not realized. There's still the investment value that I think is tangible for the other coins, right? Like we look at the investment patterns of the other coins. The altcoins is what they're called. Any other coin that's not Bitcoin is considered an altcoin. And the potential value of altcoins to me is where there's real, actual, tangible value in relation to accumulating Bitcoin. So what am I saying, right? I'm saying that that the altcoins move at a rate that's more volatile than Bitcoin. And so, yeah, like the downs are more down than Bitcoin, but the ups are more up than Bitcoin. And if my goal is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible, then it's advantageous for me to be into other coins. You know, if I trade, right? If I'm a trader, you know, and I don't have to be a day trader, I could be a swing trader, or I could just trade periodically from time to time. But if I'm a trader and I'm not just hodling, if I'm trading, then it's advantageous for me to buy altcoins, you know, that outperform Bitcoin, so that later on I could sell those altcoins for Bitcoin and accumulate more Bitcoin. And, you know, case in point, this year, you know, if you had bought at the beginning of the year, you know, you wouldn't, you know, if you had bought Bitcoin at the beginning of the year, you'd be like, you know, you'd be up like maybe 10 grand, right? But by buying altcoins, you know, you have the potential to have made a lot more money. You know, I think in my personal, in my portfolio, if we had just stayed in Bitcoin, you know, we'd be where we are right now. But I think because we were in altcoins too, we did 3 times, you know, the value of our portfolio in performance anyway. So it's like a 300% gain in the entire portfolio, which is, it's hard to do. Like if you have a particular coin, man, you can move that really relatively easy. You know what I mean? Like you can move that pretty quickly. But to move your entire portfolio, you'd have to take on a lot of risk, which I don't think I don't think I'd want to take on like so much risk. But you know, actually, come to think of it, like we did like roughly 300% on the entire portfolio and all the holdings, right? And that's pretty good considering Bitcoin is in the same place where it was. And I think, you know, I hope that in the next 6 months, roughly 3 to 6 months, as Bitcoin moves, because I don't think we're out of the bull run yet, you know, that my portfolio should, you know, do a 3 to 4x from here, right? That's the expected goal anyway. I mean, it's got as high as more than 300%, but now as the market pulled back, it's come down to just about that much. So, you know, I still made money. I'm in no ways complaining at all, right? I'm really good. I'm so solid. Even if the market tanked all the way from here, it would be okay for me because I still accumulated a lot more Bitcoin than I had before. And if the market does tank, you just sell and accumulate even more Bitcoin, right? But I want you at home to start thinking about what your reserve currency is. Maybe it's land, right? Maybe you really just want to be accumulating land. You want more and more land, which is great, right? You got to think about, okay, you know, in terms of value of my portfolio, you know, is it $1 return per acre per door? You know, what is it, right? And so, you know, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, was your reserve currency and how to consider it and all that stuff. Holla at me, man. Comment below what your reserve currency is, what you think is a smart way to measure your wealth. Would love to hear it. If you got any questions, or you know, you think anything I said was wrong, holla at me, man. All right, man. Peace.